Hello, welcome back to the Homeschool Feast. Today's conversation is one I think every homeschool parent needs because we're talking about something that sits underneath every lesson, every book, every math page, every sibling disagreement, and all those hard moments in our day. And that is the atmosphere of home. Charlotte Mason said that atmosphere is 1/3 of education. And if you have ever tried to homeschool in the middle of a sibling fight, big emotions, power struggles, you know how true this really is. Our children are not just learning from the curriculum we put in front of them, they are being formed by the emotional and spiritual climate they live in every day. And that is why I'm so excited to welcome Wendy Snyder to the show. Wendy is a certified positive parenting educator, family life coach, and the founder and CEO of Fresh Start Family. Through her podcast, courses, and coaching programs, she has helped thousands of parents move away from fear-based discipline and toward a home rooted in connection, compassion, and confidence. She's also the author of a brand new book, Fresh Start Your Family, Powerful Parenting to Restore Peace in Your Home. In her book, Wendy helps parents understand that misbehavior is often just communication, that strong-willed children are not problems to fix, and that discipline can be both firm and kind. So much of what she teaches connects beautifully with Charlotte Mason's view of children, her teachings on habit, the way of the will, and the way of reason, and the sacred work of shaping our home atmosphere where children can grow in wisdom, self-government, and love. Today, we're going to be talking about what it means to stop merely managing behavior and start mentoring the heart. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Homeschool Feast podcast. I'm your host, Julie Ross, and I'm here today with the beautiful Wendy Snyder from Fresh Start Family. You may have remembered that name because she was on my podcast a little bit ago, and I'm so excited to have you back, Wendy. Thank you for coming on.
Julie, I'm so happy to be back. Thank you for welcoming me back on your show. I'm so excited to connect with you and your community today.
I just love your positivity and your heart that comes through with everything that you do. And I know that the message that you have is so important. And I'm going to take what I read in your book, which is just coming out. I think the week this will air, hopefully. And these parenting principles. And I love to have this conversation because I think a lot of what you write and say really ties into the approach that I use in my homeschool curriculum. And even though Charlotte Mason lived in the Victorian times, she was a radical and way ahead of her time in terms of education, but also in terms of parenting. Like she wrote a whole book. So as I read your book, I'm going, I'm like, this relates. Oh my, this relates.
Yep. And as I get to know you, it's been fun to learn more about her and how aligned she is with so much of what I teach. So that's been really fun to get to know
So
her.
that's gonna be a really fun, juicy conversation. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go. So her first principle is that children are born persons, which seems really obvious because they're not like puppies or something. But in her time, it was like super radical because they were there to be seen but not heard type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
your book really does a beautiful job of going beneath the behavior, recognizing the child's heart, seeing the humanity in them. Most of us would say, "Oh, that's what I want. That's how I see my children." But oftentimes our behaviors are telling a different story. So how can parents who are maybe not consciously seeing their children as problems to manage, one, how do you even, okay,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you know if you're seeing your child as a problem to be managed? Let's start there. Because we don't,
Yeah.
like, if I ask somebody, they'll be like, of course not. I don't think that. But are you, it's the way that you're acting. So how would you know, even if that might subconsciously be what's going on?
Yeah. I would say if you are living in America or a lot of countries, I'm going to speak to the Nordic countries here in a minute because they are an exception. I would just assume that you are assuming disintegrity. They're little humans coming to the world, and you're like, I'm going to need to make them become good humans. I'm going to need to shape them into good, kind, contributing members of society. And most of us, like, again, I'm almost a decade into teaching this work, helped tens of thousands of families. That is just the norm to inherit the belief system. And usually it looks like this. The old school belief system is a misbehaving child equals a bad parent. And that is why if a child melts down in the grocery store or is like misbehaving at Thanksgiving dinner table when your in-laws are watching, like you feel more triggered, more of a charge than if you were just like alone in an empty field and your kids are fighting. I have a story about that. I have 10, like so many stories in this book, Julie, but it is just the belief system we inherited that a misbehaving child equals a bad child. And through this work, through this body of psychology, and understanding of child development and the way humans are naturally and perfectly designed by God. We all have needs, the need to feel powerful, the need to belong, the need to feel valuable, the need to feel loved. And we start to be able to shift into this new belief, or it's not even really new. It's like it is the center of the artichoke, so to speak, I like to say. And as you get older, you grow these like edges that are sharp and hard to protect yourself, but really on the inside is all the same for us. The tender hearted truth. A misbehaving child equals a communicating child, equals an empowered parent who can redirect misbehavior with grace and dignity. And so the reason that is so effective is because we start to be able to meet the child with where they're at in their learning journey and then teach them the life skills that they haven't quite mastered yet. And so when you say, like, how do we know if we're in the old school or that belief system of it's the opposite of what Charlotte Mason was saying there, that children are this like personhood or innately they're important people, which by the way, over in Sweden and the Nordic countries, like little kids or children have rights, like they have a bill of rights over there. Like they really raise children the way that I teach. And it's just been like that for centuries. But here in America specifically, like we assume that they are going to try to push buttons, be naughty, be disobedient, and that we are going to have to correct them pretty consistently. And that becomes the driver. And I think you just know that you're in that because you're often in a state of irritation, annoyance. You find yourself assuming disintegrity in a kid. If they push their sibling or something, like you're assuming that they're being mean, that they're being selfish. If they don't clean up their toys fast enough, you might have a tendency to assume that they're just trying to get away with not doing their part, or that they're lazy, or that they're acting entitled, right? These are all just symptoms of holding on to that belief that's just, it's outdated, right? It's just not accurate once you start to understand a little bit more about the true innate design of a human soul and what it looks like to grow up and learn. And that's going to involve mistakes. It's going to involve imperfections. And the parent's role is just to be able to develop the settled nervous system to be able to see that not as an attack or as dangerous and more just like a part of life, if that makes sense. I hope that answers that first question.
No, that really helps. And I think we don't often realize we are assuming the motives and we are assuming the worst about our child. It's, again, like what you said. They're lazy, they're entitled, they're trying to push my buttons, they're making it harder than it needs to be. It's their fault. And we're assuming this motive. And so if that's not the answer, then what is the answer? If assuming the negative motive, which you're totally right, like that totally triggers us, it totally puts us in shame, it totally messes up our nervous system, and then we respond in ways we don't want to. So if it's not that, then what?
Yeah. It really is starting to understand the core needs of humans. And we teach this in section 1 of the book, right? So section 1, or part 1 of our foundations course in our programming, section 1 of the book is really, we start with the paradigm shift and really starting to see that what we see is not always what is. And this is where the parent really starts to be able with humility to say, what I inherited as far as belief systems is not fixed, right? Like it's so like our brains are so moldable and plastic that we have the ability to update the belief systems to more accurately hold what years and years of research and data has shown us. I give so much data and research in section 4 of the book where we teach compassion.
I love because I'm a nerd.
Yeah, it's good, right? Like it's so fun to be a nerd and see that now we're at decades and decades of people who are in the field of psychology and human development, really, and the medical field too, really studying human souls and what happens when they are raised in this environment, what happens when they're raised in this environment. So, as far as what do we do, it is that first invitation just to say, am I willing to like put down the sunglasses that I've been wearing and just try on something new? One of my favorite stories about this is Stephen Covey, who wrote the book Habits of Highly Successful People, was like pretty old school. He's written so many books, but he was one of the original people I found to help me understand how to have how capable we are of seeing things differently. But he says the world is not as it is how you have been conditioned to see it. And he goes on to tell a story about how he's on the subway one day in New York City when he was younger, and there was a dad and 4 or 5 kids, and they were just like out of control. These kids were fighting. They were like wild monkeys, just like running around the subway. And this Stephen Covey found himself just being so irritated and annoyed and having all these beliefs of what is this? What is this dad's deal? Like these entitled brats, come on, get control of your children. What kind of father just sits there and lets his kids act like these maniacs on the subway? And he said finally he got the nerve to say to this guy, dude, I think you should do something about your kids. They're a little out of control. And he said the dad just looked at him and was like, you know what? I have no idea what to do. Like, we've just come from the hospital where we lost their mom. Their mom just died of cancer. And I'm just in shock still. And I don't know what to do. So good luck. If you have an idea, something like that. And he just said in that moment, it was the perfect representation of here he is thinking that he's got it all figured out, that this dad is a loser, that this like blah, blah, blah. And really, the entire reality of the situation was not what he had thought. So I think
Wow.
it's a lot of humility in the beginning when you start to unwind what you inherited. And just know that there's such joy in that, because I think the suffering starts to reduce when you realize that there is a lot of like self-induced harm when we hold these positions around our kids. And we have the power to change that. That's why this book is called Fresh Start Your Family, Powerful Parenting to Restore Peace in Your Home, because so much of it, Julie, is around stepping back into your power. And a lot of us inherited disempowered. I don't like to use the term victim mindset much these days because people get so triggered by it, but learned helplessness or disempowered mindset. And that involves a lot of blaming others for your unhappiness or blaming yourself, right? So that's shame. What is wrong with me? I should know better. I should be a better parent. I should have better control of this kid, especially if you have a strong-willed kid. And then blame is their fault. I'm yelling. It's if they would just be more well-behaved, I wouldn't have to hit them. I wouldn't have to blah, blah, blah. So that puts you into a disempowered mindset, and you just end up feeling very stuck in life. And so when you have the humility to say, okay, chances are I inherited a belief system that's not actually accurate. Instead, I'm going to learn a little bit about the core needs that we teach in section 1, belonging, power, value, love, and then start to learn how to help my child get those needs met in those moments that they're misbehaving. Because what they are communicating is that they need help getting those needs met. So the power struggle is like the classic example. That is just one of the core needs as human souls. And right, you can see it very clearly. It's the same out in the world as it is in the home. There are people that get their need to feel powerful met, get their need to feel power need met in very unhealthy ways. And that's being a human. There's going to be you can get it met in unhealthy ways, you can get it met in healthy ways. So like an example of an unhealthy way would be like fighting with someone, overpowering with someone, violence, right? Or demeaning, humiliating someone just to have them retreat or submit to you. A healthy example of feeling powerful would be learning how to influence somebody without those methods. And then like peaceful conflict resolution, leading peaceful conflict resolution is an example of true power, of feeling that power inside of you. My daughter is a great example at this stage in her life because she's 18 now. She was, as I talk about in our first episode together, she's the reason why I'm a teacher. I thought I was going to lose my freaking mind when she was 3 years old, and just strong will from birth. So strong will. But because of this work, because someone taught us early on to change our paradigm about who this kid was, we learned to nurture that will every second of her life. We learned to build that up in her instead of back in the day, everyone and their uncle, especially in my church world, was telling me, just break that will, break it fast, break it early, because that if you don't handle that young, that's going to be a problem. We didn't listen, thank God. I call that holy resistance. When you learn, when your intuition and through divine guidance, that is not the way. And so we instead nurtured that strong will. And this last year, she went on to reach her dream of becoming a Division I beach volleyball athlete in yeah. It's for a school that's ranked top 10 in the nation. They just qualified again for the NCAA finals, which is only 16 teams out of 70. And it's a feat that only 1% of high school athletes attain to go on to play Division I athletics in college. And it's just one example of how, because of the system, right, and because of our ability, and someone taught us very early on, here's how you change the paradigm and see the situation different. That then led to teaching this young child, here's how you feel powerful. You slam that volleyball so hard that someone like can't dig it. And then you walk off that court and you win a game, right? Or she became a drummer very young and could play like very advanced rock and roll music by the time she was 10 years old. But those are healthy ways to feel powerful. So I hope that little riff answers that question a little bit.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love how you reframe misbehavior as communication. Just that one simple mindset of, in that moment, stopping yourself, and before you start assuming things and labeling your kids, going, okay, what might they be communicating in this situation? Or like you're talking about, like, what need might they be trying to meet? So especially in the homeschool environment, talking about like the power struggle and assuming the motives, what comes up most is when a child is, I don't want to do math today, or this is dumb. Why do I have to do this? And I don't like this book. And the resistance. And if the parent is, again, assuming it's because either I'm a bad parent, I'm a bad homeschool parent, and so I need to like change my curriculum or learn how to do something different, right? Or they're assuming it's their child and their child is just trying to make things hard for them or give them a bad day or be lazy or whatever, right? It just, like everything you're teaching, it just makes the power struggle a badillion times worse. So in that situation, what could the child possibly be trying to communicate if misbehavior is communication?
Yes. So I'll go through the 4 categories of misbehavior real quick. I forget if we covered this in our first episode together, but this is section 3 of the book. And the 4 categories that most of the time a child will fall into, not always, like sibling conflict is an example of one that's like its own little planet.
We'll talk about that later because
oh my gosh,
want to address it. So for now,
is my freaking Achilles heel for so long. I feel like finally, after 15 years of studying this work, I'm like able to detach, blah, blah, blah. But most of the time, kids will probably fall into one of these categories of like how they misbehave. And a lot of times, Julie, they will be really good at one of them, right? So my little girl is the power struggle kid. My little boy, who's 15 and 6'2" now, he is the attention kid. Like he will be at the dinner table, like tapping. So if we're not talking to him or something, or if Stella's talking too much. So the 4 categories. So power, misbehavior, which is I'm going to riff on here in a minute. And that is a need to feel powerful. And kids who do power misbehavior often have a mistaken belief that in order to feel powerful, I must overpower others, often because that's what's been modeled to me. 99% of what children learn is caught, not taught. So we'll come back to power. Revenge is the other like toughest category. And that is when a child is hitting, kicking, biting, saying, I hate you, this family sucks. And the mistaken belief behind that one, when a child does that, is when I feel hurt, I have to hurt back. Often because that's what's been modeled to me. One of the best examples I have of that one is I was back in the day teaching Stella's kindergarten class as a volunteer with social emotional literacy work when I first got certified. And I came in one day and I said to the class, hey kids, we're going to learn an activity today on like, how can you respond if someone does something that you don't like and that is hurtful? And this sweet little twin, 80-pound blonde girl raises her hand, Caitlin, she was a twin. She goes, I know when Miss Wendy chooses me. And I was like, yeah, Caitlin, tell me. It's like when someone says, your shoes are ugly, you look them right in the face and you say, your face is ugly. And I was like, oh my gosh, perfect. And I said, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to teach you a different way today. But inside, I was like, this is humanity. This is the way so many are conditioned, right? So, of course, kids have the same behavior, and we can riff on that a little bit later if we want to, but that's that. And then the third and fourth is inadequacy. When a child is, I can't do this, they melt down, they get quiet. Like I saw that with my power girl when she was learning to read and ride a bike. And then the fourth category is attention. And that's when a kid is seeking to feel loved. And if you if you're eye contact, if they can interrupt you while you're talking to a friend, these are like the hip monkeys where they won't leave your side. The kids that, are just like making the fart noises in the back of the minivan and poking their sister. That's like attention behavior. Coming back to your question around power.
Homeschool parents listening are going, okay, we have all of that all day long.
Yeah. Sure. What is so helpful is just to know, okay, this kid often is going to do this one, right? And so you just really educate yourself on which redirection steps you're going to use, because most of the time, Julie, parents get the one pony trick, right? Like everybody gets a timeout, everybody gets a threat. Everybody might get a spanking if you're in a corporal punishment lineage home. So everyone just gets the same thing. Punishment and threats, raising your voice, or bribery and rewards. The thing is, in a more autocratic or authoritarian system, it's always going to rely on external controls. And whether it's threats and force or it's bribery and rewards, it's all, I'm the carrot. I can make you do what I want with the move that I make. In democratic, firm and kind parenting system, which we call a powerful parenting system, we teach intrinsic control, intrinsic motivation. So we're trying to help a child do it not because they're scared of us or that they're going to get something for it, but we just try to have them tap into like their innate wisdom of why it feels good to contribute to peace in the home, why it feels good, coming back to your question, to get your math stuff done in the hour so you can then go play outside and have the afternoon free to climb the tree or play with your buddies, whatever it may be. But we try to teach them why they want to do it, not because of what's going to happen to them. So back to power struggles. Power struggles is just one category. And what we teach is a list of things that you can do to basically share the power with your child and help them feel powerful in the moment that they are asking you for more power. So a kid that's saying, I don't like this book, I don't want to do math, is essentially asking you like, hey, is there a way that you can help me feel more powerful here? And we always say, behind every complaint is a request. And when a parent stays in that regulated nervous system state, which I know you and I have studied the nervous system a lot the last few years together in some programs, when you stay in that regulated state, it doesn't feel like a bear is attacking you when a child challenges your, air quotes, authority. Instead, you're like, oh, this is not a 4-alarm fire. The kid's pushing back. We can get creative to help him feel like he can steer his ship a little bit. And so we teach 10 strategies to redirect power struggles with integrity. The one that everybody is always going to know is choices. So choices is, okay, I can see that this is not your favorite subject. Do you want to get it done fast, like a cheetah? If you have really little kids, they love these type of options. Or do you want to do it really fast, like a racehorse? Do you want to do this part of the book with my help? Or would you rather go in a section, maybe outside in the grass, and try it there and see if that helps you? Or would you rather do it now? Or would you rather go get yourself a glass of water, maybe use your essential oil, and just take a break and then come back and do it in 10 minutes? Like, you just start to be able to give them options to let them know it's still going to happen. We need to get it done. And I'm just giving you a little power. Often that in itself will relax their shoulders a little bit and they'll stop pushing back so hard. Other options are things like do the unexpected. There are options like friendly guidance and loving action. These are all like just examples of little strategies. Empowerment prompting, putting them in charge of actually leading in some capacity in the classroom. So that would be like, instead of saying tough, nobody likes what they're doing, say, how can we do it different? So maybe would you be willing to see if you could teach me or teach your younger sister? And so there's
My daughter thought she had a YouTube channel when she was little.
Right.
And she would record herself doing her math problems and with the little counting bears. She
Great
doesn't have a
example,
YouTube
Julie.
channel, but
Great
she's
example.
done that for years.
Right. So the empowered parent would realize, oh, that is an option. I can allow them to film themselves and talk this out loud, right? That's a great example of some kids look at a sheet of paper and they're like, I'm going to throw up if I have to write, or a spread. That's me with spreadsheets, right? Like my data girl knows. She'll say on a meeting, Wendy, don't even look at this. This is for me. But maybe we can practice this speaking it aloud, or there's just so many ideas, but you have to see it not as an attack and see it more as like a problem to solve together. That when you bring in that like teamwork mentality, kids, especially the strong-willed ones, they will relax a little bit and they will be the ones that always push back. It's not gonna stop necessarily, and nor do we want it to stop, because we want them to be those human beings in the world. They are the future leaders. They are the ones that have the perseverance, the persistence, the grit, right? Like my greatest heroes in life, Jesus, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., Malala Yousafzai, Desmond Doss, they were so persistent and they didn't stop saying no in life, but they led lives that were highly virtuous and value oriented, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the future leaders, and seeing it that way is definitely
Mhm.
important. I love what you say about redirection. Charlotte Mason actually talks about that a lot.
Right.
To redirect behavior, not make it this big, huge thing, just redirect it. And about another thing that I thought of as you were talking, and I think some parents don't realize this. Yes, okay, we realize that we try to power over our children by threats, punishments, rewards. She also talks about using love and sympathy to control your child. If you really love mommy, you would do blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, that hurts mommy's feelings when you blah, 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 blah. But it's still the parent trying, and it seems like a nicer way to do it. And I think that can be an easy trap because it's, oh, I don't want to do this, but I don't have any other tools.
Mm.
So I'm still trying to get control. And a nice way. You don't want to hurt me.
Yeah, and are you saying Charlotte advocated for that, or she called
No,
it
she was
out as
talking
parent?
against. She was talking
Good.
against it.
For a minute, I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
No,
no,
she
she
was like,
lovingly say I just
no, it's
did.
still a law against like rewards and bribes as well, and against the whole
Charlotte was a
and everything.
badass.
But like that, and
Yeah,
maybe that was just more common. But I see it all the time too. Of
you're right.
yeah,
Yeah.
a loving way of getting still controlling
It
and
is.
not addressing the behavior and teaching them anything.
Yeah. And there's a few things there that it's like so much compassion for anybody that finds themselves doing it, right? Because again, a lot of this was inherited, right? So we would call that kind of like emotional manipulation or using guilt or like putting your emotions on children. But like I see that a lot too of you're making me sad. And if you really want me to have a good day and you love me, as you said, you'll do it. And we get to just change that up and learn how to say, I feel sad. I think a lot of parents say that you make me sad when for a lot of things I use sad as an umbrella. Like it's actually more scared and hurt a lot of times than sad. Sad is an emotion that you feel when you lose your black lab after 14 years, or your mom or a loved one. Like sad is a beautiful emotion that shows how much you care. We do so much emotional literacy work and education here, but yeah, just learning to own your own emotions. Like I feel hurt. I feel scared right now that I don't know what to do in this situation. Kids love a strong, emotionally literate parent that can just be real clear about what they're feeling, but not blame their feelings on their children. And kids really will respond well to that when they don't feel blamed.
Yeah, because it's so much pressure to put on a kid. You're responsible for my happiness.
Yeah.
No. Like,
But yeah, it is the way. It's the
Yeah.
way most of us inherit. Like it is. Yeah. Go make your sister feel better.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but it's huge. Okay, so let's talk about the thing we put under the table, siblings.
Oh, yeah.
This is so
Mhm.
huge because in homeschooling, you're together all the time.
I can't even imagine.
And in your book, you talk about like how to fight fair.
Yeah.
And so can you talk a little bit about that and how that relates to
Yeah.
homeschooling?
Yeah. Speaking of the inherited beliefs that we get to lovingly rebel against, this idea that our job as parents is to raise kids that don't fight, right? Like, I feel like that's everyone's pike game. It's like, where?
Description. I don't remember.
Oh my God. I was like, yeah, please, dear God, help me make these children stop fighting. And really, what I've discovered through the years is it's more of a, dear God, please help me teach these children how to fight. And that is such a more realistic and helpful goal as we all are raising human souls. And so the approach there really is about teaching peaceful conflict resolution. It's teaching kids how to get out of the patterns of hurting and harming either themselves or others when they have a problem to solve. So a lot of kids end up getting into the either physical, right? I'm going to push you, pinch you, slap you, hit you to get my way, or they're going to get into, as we said, like that emotionally manipulative side of things. I'm going to name call you. I'm going to pressure you. Cry. Yeah. Cry, right? Whine, become the victim to my parent when I tattle. And so we just get to teach them, hey, look, there's a different way. And we're going to keep practicing it over and over again. And it does look like a lot of peaceful conflict resolution. In our world, one of the ways we do that is we start to teach a win-win from very young. So a win-win is just a simple template. I think it's section 3 or 4 of the book that there's a little QR code and you can download like some really helpful free guides that give you some templates and stuff. But a win-win is simply teaching children how to say, I feel blank. I want blank. And then the other kid goes, and then together they say, how are we going to make this work so we both win? And it takes time. I remember I first did this, Julie. I probably learned about this concept when I was new to this work, right? So my kids were like 1 and 4. And I'll never forget the first time I really felt fully successful doing it. I think Taryn was about 3.5 and Stella was about 6.5. We'd come home from gymnastics class or something, and their pattern was they would run and jump in. We used to call it the fighting chair. And they knew that when they got home from class that they could watch their little show, whatever it was at the time, Paw Patrol maybe, and they would get in this freaking chair and fight about who gets the chair. And I remember this night just being like, and my pattern, I write so much about true stories in this book, my own reactive patterns through the years that took me years to unwind. But that was what I inherited, was reactivity as a parent. And I remember that day just being like, that's it. Today is the day that we are doing this and we are seeing it through, and we didn't have anywhere to go. I was like, I'm pushing off dinner. And we sat there and we did a win-win. It took us like probably 17 minutes. It felt like I was going to die. I was like, every moment I'm like, I'm going to blow up. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to send them to their room. I'm going to make the other one her fault because she should be. And finally, I was like, no, I was able to just walk myself off the ledge, keep my nervous system regulated as we went back and forth and they blah, blah, blah. And I mentored them because that's what you become, a coach in these moments, not a correctional officer. And I'll never forget the first time they finally came to this resolution together with my coaching, with my support, but together. And then they're high-fiving each other. They're hugging. They're like, just literally like kissing each other's cheeks. And I remember just watching and being like, wow, this is the power of this. When you teach children they are capable, you will not solve their problems, that they can learn how to advocate for what they want, but do it in a way that is respectful and kind, it brings humanity together. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy. I hired a really high-level coach this year, and just this last week, we had some beef. Like, we had to work through things that were not feeling good for me and not feeling good for her. And I said to her, I'm like, I love that we have the tools to work through this with such dignity with each other. And finally, just this morning, we came to a beautiful resolution. And it felt like that love fest where we were like, I love you. We're going to like basically cut ties. And it felt so good. She felt respected. I felt respected. And we were just like high-fiving each other. We did this. We have so much to celebrate, that we accomplished so much in 6 months together. And now let's do this. So it's just really powerful. It can change the world if you are willing to teach your kids how to fight instead of to make them stop fighting.
Yes. And that seems easier. Everybody just go to their rooms. I'm done. And in the moment, your nervous system does get some relief, right? But you're not actually solving anything. And it will just, like you said, with the chair, like just coming up and coming up. And it might not be about that one incident, but it's going to be about something else that they're going to fight. Like, because they never look the tools to advocate for their needs in a healthy way. So what do you mean? I think I understand, but what was the win? I'm dying to know. What was the win-win in the chair situation?
Yeah, it was so long ago that I don't remember exactly, but I think I don't remember that one exactly, Julie. I think it was somewhere along the lines of we'll share it. We'll share it.
So can you explain a little bit then, like, what do you mean by win-win? So parents can wrap around.
So
What does
win-win.
that look like?
So I'll give another story, and hopefully I love teaching through stories. So we took our kids to Ireland to see a rock and roll show in a castle when Stella was 10 and Taryn was 7. It was the best. Stella used her strong will to catch a drumstick from the drummer of Metallica in a crowd of 75,000 people. She set out to catch a drumstick. She took a sign 6,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean and got to the front and stood and held her sign up and caught this drumstick. Just another Stella story. That's a strong will, but to good use. Anyways, we're in Ireland. We're actually just about to go back in a month to Ireland. Same show. It's so funny. And they're sitting at a booth and it's 10 o'clock at night. We're in Dublin and they start fighting over the corner. I don't know why. My children have freaking seating. Like, I have a strong-willed child and then I have another child who won't back down to the strong-willed child. They're sitting in the corner of the booth and they both want to sit in the right corner. I know it sounds so stupid, but parents so this is life. By that time, we were really well versed and we were tired. And Terry and I just wanted to relax. And I didn't no interest in solving your problem. And so Terry and I were like, you know what? We're gonna go to the bar and grab a drink. You guys do a win-win. You can work it out. And they sat there, and it took them like 5 or 6 minutes, and they did their thing. I feel blank. I want blank. I feel blank. I want blank. How are we both going to work this out? And we could see them from a distance, and it wasn't perfect. They were rolling their eyes, and
No punches or ring throwing or
anything. And at this point, 10 and 7. And finally, we see them like shake or high five or something. We come back to the table with our drinks, and they're like, okay, fine. Stella agreed that she's going to give him this drumstick at home or something for him to make this little tech deck skateboard park. And she agreed to that. And he was like, okay, fine, then you can have the corner that you want. And they had worked it out. And we were not part of it. We were not part of this stupid corner fight. And then
the corner fight of whatever year it was.
Thank you. And then we moved on, right? And now at that point, they had practice for years of us doing that, of saying, dude, this is you. I've helped schools implement peace tables where when kids have issues, instead of tattling the teacher will say, go to the peace table and work it out. And they might have those pictures of all of those type of leaders that I referenced in the beginning. And then they have a win-win template sitting there on the table that just says the blank. I feel blank. I want blank. How are we going to make this both work? And they are required to sit there and do it. And that did actually happen when I was teaching that same era in kindergarten that I mentioned, that little girl. There was a day when I came in and the teacher was like, Wendy, guess what? Peace table work this morning. So-and-so came up and they were tattling. And I was like, dude, go work it out. They went to the peace table. They got the sign. They worked it out.
5-year-olds.
5-year-olds, Julie.
That's amazing.
No violence.
Yeah.
No needing people to do it for them. I know it sounds crazy. It always sounds impossible till it's done. We have loads of stories where this just starts to happen. One more. I just got to throw in one more, okay? And then I'll be done with
I love these. These are amazing.
I have a video.
It's really helpful to see.
Good. Yeah. I have a video of one of my students, Janine, who was with me for years. She actually is from Maryland, where I am from. And she submitted this video one day. She was like, guys, you're going to die, to us and my coaches. She was like, look at, I think her little girl's name is Harper. She's like, look what I came in and found Harper doing today. Harper was 3 years old and she's on the ground and she has her little like hippo and they look like bath toys or something. And she's sitting there with the win-win sheet, the template. I feel blank. I want blank. And her mom's like, what are you doing? And she goes, I do win. Because the raft stepped on hippo's toes and hippo so mad at us. And he is saying, I want you to stop stepping on me. And she's sitting there practicing these little toys. And Julie, 3 years old.
I love it. Yeah. And so if you take a whole day off of homeschooling and this is all you do,
right?
this is the most important thing because no matter where you go in life, you're going to have other humans in your life and you're going to have.
And it's so uncomfortable. Guys, I'm not trying to say this is easy, but it is this, when you master this, like, where were we? Where were we? It's something, my kids are 18 and 15 now. And there was just like in the last few days where I had this hit to myself of nice, they just worked that out on their own. And that is true power as a parent. That is what I mean when I say you feel powerful as a human being because you're like, I did that. I taught those kids. I never gave up. And look, they're doing it. They're in the world. And like now you see Stella out in the world. Girls, teenage girls between the ages of 13 and 17. Oh my gosh. And the girls out in the world that don't have like supportive families or they have unhealthy conflict resolution, the stuff they do is so mean. They're so unkind. They have no. And I watch Stella handle herself over and over again with these strategies. And again, another feeling of power hits you as a parent. And you're like, wow, I did that. I taught that kid how to make amends, how to repair the relationship, how to humble herself, how to not blame other people, how to actually stand up for herself and say, I'm not okay with you talking to me like that, right? It's been really beautiful to watch. And she's not perfect. No kid is perfect, but yeah, it just feels good once you start to get in a groove with that. And it takes dedication and courage.
Yeah. But it's really the most important thing.
Yeah.
What you're teaching them and modeling this, like and I think of, you talk in the book about the atmosphere that we're creating, the emotional and spiritual climate. And Charlotte Mason actually said, we have 3 tools for education. Education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life. So 1/3 of what we're doing to educate our kid is the atmosphere of the home that we're creating.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's so key. And I'm so glad you talked about that because can be something we don't think about. And so can you talk, as you just mentioned the word repair, the importance of repair and then the legacy that we're creating and how we handle our mistakes shapes that atmosphere?
I love this question. Probably my favorite question I've ever gotten because it's so important, Julie. So you and I, we've been in programs where we've been studying the nervous system for years together. And what we know now is that the nervous system is conditioned by the atmosphere, the temperature of our homes, right? Our sweet little nervous system that is designed to keep us alive, it soaks up the temperature, how mistakes were handled in the home that you grew up in. Were they 4-alarm fires? When a human soul was imperfect, was that met with danger? Whether that is shame, harm, right? Fear, anything. And what we get to realize now is that when we see mistakes as just opportunities to learn, instead of like these day-destroying sagas or proof that our child is bad or that we are bad, when we just see them as mistakes, like mistakes are just opportunities to learn. It's like when you are raising a young baby, right? And they learn how to walk and they take their first steps. They always fall. But we don't say to a baby, like, what are you thinking? I've taught you 1,000,000 times. Put your arms out, bend your legs. You need to stabilize yourself. What is your problem? No, we're like, get up. It's okay. Try again. Try again. Like you're still learning the life skill. Toddlers, as they learn, they're notorious for falling because they run too fast. My little neighbor, Rowan, who's 3, she's always got either a black eye or a bump on her head. Like she falls down a lot, right? But at some point in our homes, the temperature shifts from this is a young child learning to now they're supposed to have it all figured out. So when they slap their sister or they refuse to do the math homework, then it starts to be like, boom, it becomes unsafe to be perfect or to be imperfect. And so once you really understand that we can do it different, we can teach, we can actually welcome mistakes and see that is, as we teach in the compassionate discipline section of Fresh Start Your Family book, those often are the best ways for a human soul to learn is through mistakes. And also like the science that is coming out, the research that Jonathan Haidt has really led in his work of the anxious generation is the kids who are allowed to fail, they are allowed to have a little bit more of a free range and not be such, and Lenore Skenazy's work is great for this too. She's been on our podcast. but their organization has really proven that we need to allow children to experience life and failure not as something that's bad, but more as something that's part of being a human. And that often creates the best neural pathways of how to actually get the life skill. So then we start to have temperatures in our home where parents aren't flying off the handle. Like the reactive parenting is one of the the greatest areas of focus in the book, in our programming, where we come besides parents and you're not broken. You're not bad for being the yeller, the risk grabber, the punisher, right? Like the shame person. What's wrong with you? That was who I was when I first started parenting. But you're not bad. And once you start to have a different setting in your home, and we always say, as Kate Northrup has taught us, that we get to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. So we lead the way. So if the kids are fighting, we get to learn how to regulate our nervous system and be detached enough to lead with like calm confidence, firm, kind authority versus the fear and force or whatever. And that does affect and set the nervous system to a place where then you have children that are able to learn because they're not stuck in their amygdala. They're spending time in that prefrontal cortex where they're open to the lessons. They're open to the air quotes correction, which we would phrase more as like teaching. They can humble themselves easier because they haven't had it modeled to them that you hide mistakes, that you defend mistakes, that you it's just you create the atmosphere of none of us are perfect. Humility is a superpower. We're going to make mistakes and we will be held accountable if we hurt or harm somebody or ourselves. And repair then becomes one of the greatest tools we have as parents, right? So repair, making amends, repairing relationships. And for many of us, we didn't grow up in homes where repair was really great. Like you might get into a fight or get punished or have your parents say something like really gnarly to you. My house was a lot of what is wrong with you? Shame on you. Shame on you. And then the next day at breakfast, it would be like, do you want syrup on your pancakes? I hope you have a good day at school. We get to do it different. It's like we get to learn that coming together with our children and saying, whoa, that got a little out of control last night. Here's some things I regret. Here's how I want to do it different. And then in our compassionate discipline section of the book, we teach you how to create the new neural pathway. So redos and role plays are part of the essence of our compassionate discipline toolkit, where you just get to practice together with your kids. I'm going to practice doing this again, but this time I'm going to ask for what I want, or I'm going to use our 4-step setting firm limits process that we teach in the book. Instead of yelling at you, instead of raising my voice, instead of calling you selfish and entitled, I'm going to do it differently because you didn't deserve that. And I'm just learning. That's things that was said to me when I was growing up, and it's taken me a long time to learn how to do it differently. But thank you for your grace with me. And I want you to practice what it looks like instead of saying, no, school sucks. I hate this stupid day, saying, Mom, I feel hurt right now that I have to do something that I hate. And can we talk about a different way? I just want you to practice doing it differently. You're always allowed to say to me, I feel mad. I feel hurt. I feel like this is unfair. I am struggling to find joy in this math, whatever. You're always welcome to share how you are feeling with me. And we're going to learn how to speak to each other with respect. I don't know. That's just an example of, but repair and making amends. Like we always say, I'd much rather you be a parent that like messes up often and then is a boss at repair versus someone that thinks that you need to be perfect, that you need to always be patient, that you need to always perfectly use these tools. Like I'm 15 years into this work and I still lose it on my kids. I still say things I regret. And I'm just not shameful about it anymore because I have the ability to come to them and say, hey, that's on me. You didn't deserve to be spoken to like that. And then guess what? They model it right back. They're so quick to take responsibility and repair, but they have to be shown how. And that becomes the atmosphere, that becomes the temperature of your home.
Yeah, no, I love that. It was such a beautiful description of that whole entire concept of atmosphere and how important it is. And I wrote down, I think I don't cross stitch, but if I did, this would be a pillow, but it would also be a great poster for your homeschool room. It is safe to be imperfect here because that is how we learn best.
So beautiful, Julie. Yeah.
And if
Let's
we
start
can
needle
actually,
stitching. Needle pointing.
I don't know any of that. I can do chalk art. I can make a cute little chalkboard with this saying or go on Canva and make, but
Or
at
a
the same time,
letterboard.
because that's how we learn best. Like whole mindset, it does. It completely changes the atmosphere. It changes the way you show up. It changes the way your kids show up. And we're not in this hothouse proud environment every day where everything has to be perfect.
And I will add one more thing to that, Julie, is it is so strong and safe to say to your kids, I don't know what to do right now. Your kids, I don't want to do this math. I hate this math. Okay, let me go step out in the backyard because I don't know what to do right now.
Yeah.
Your kids will not think you're weak. They will respect that. And then you go regulate yourself. Your critical, creative thinking brain will come back online. You'll get some ideas like, hey, maybe I could offer that she could create a YouTube station.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help her feel empowered enough to do this math in a different way. But
Yeah, I love it. This has been such a great conversation. I appreciate you and your work so much. So how can people get the book and all the exciting stuff that you offer?
thank you, Julie. Anywhere books are sold, Amazon books, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org. I've learned about this year. I guess that's a organization that will ship them from your local bookstores. You can also
What was it? Bookshop?
bookshop.org.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess they ship from local retailers. And then you can request it at your library. That's a great way to do it. If you're like, Wendy, I'm tapped on book budget, but just go walk in your library and say, I'd like to fill out the form to request this book. That's a great way to do it. And then come find me if you have a strong-willed kid and you want to just take the next. I think the book is perfect, and then the next step would just be to get in my interactive classroom. I teach a interactive workshop called 3 Secrets to Thriving with Strong-Willed Kids, and you can come register and find a time that works for you at freshstartfamilyonline.com/secrets. I'm Fresh Start Wendy on Instagram, and I'm the Fresh Start Family Show podcast that you have been on, Miss Julie. It's one of our favorite episodes. So yeah, come find me.
Yes, I will link all of this in the show notes. So
you.
thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Julie. I always love our conversations. You are such a light in the world. So grateful for your work.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Let's wrap up with some key takeaways. Number 1, misbehavior is communication, not proof that a child is bad. Wendy explains that many of us inherited the belief that a misbehaving child equals a bad parent. Instead, she invites parents to see misbehavior as communication from a child who needs help with belonging, power, value, or love. This shift helps parents respond with curiosity instead of shame or irritation. Number 2, strong-willed children are future leaders who need mentorship, not breaking. Wendy shared how her own strong-willed daughter taught her to nurture the will rather than crush it. Instead of seeing pushback as rebellion, parents can see it as a child's need to feel powerful and then help that child learn healthy ways to use that power. This connects beautifully with Charlotte Mason's understanding of the will as something to be strengthened and guided. Number 3, homeschool resistance often improves when parents share power wisely. When a child says, I hate math or I don't want to do this, Wendy encourages parents to look beneath the resistance. Instead of entering a power struggle, parents can offer choices, use creativity, give the child a meaningful role, or change the way the work is approached while still holding the boundary that the work needs to be done. Number 4, sibling conflict can become training in peaceful conflict resolution. Rather than trying to raise children who never fight, Wendy encourages parents to teach children how to fight fairly. She introduces the idea of a win-win, where children learn to say, I feel and I want, and then work together towards a solution. For homeschool families where siblings are together much of the day, this is especially important heart work. And last but not least, the atmosphere of the home is shaped by how we handle mistakes and repair. Julie connects Wendy's work to Charlotte Mason's teaching that education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life. Wendy explained that a child's nervous system is shaped by the temperature of the home, especially how mistakes are handled. When parents model repair, humility, and emotional regulation, they create a home where children learn that mistakes are opportunities to grow. If you would like to check out Wendy's book, Fresh Start Your Family, it's available wherever books are sold, and you can also check out the show notes at thehomeschoolfeast.com for more information. Thanks again for listening.